What is up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is TopCap Gaming and welcome to a TF2 commentary. In this commentary, I like to discuss new weapon ideas that could be implemented in the Spy vs. Engineer update. Now, everyone loves the new weapons. I love new weapons. They add a whole new dynamic and they breathe in fresh new life into the game we come to know and love called TF2. And with this Spy vs. Engineer update that's supposed to be coming out relatively soon, I still have no idea when, it's safe to assume that the new weapons they'll most likely implement would be either for the Spy or the Engineer. And for this video, I just want to discuss my ideas for what new weapons can be implemented. I've only decided to choose one weapon for each loadout slot for both the Spy and the Engineer, just to make sure that this video doesn't run on for too long. And to explain how I'll present each new idea, I'm going to say the name of the weapon, a brief description of the weapon statistics. I'll display a weapon skin from the TF2 workshop that could correlate to this weapon. I'll leave all links for the workshop skins down in the description below. And finally, I'll sum up with my idea as to why this is a good implementation for a new weapon. Now, all of this is hypothetical, so don't expect every weapon idea that you see to be confirmed for the Spy vs. Engineer update. These are all just ideas that I either made myself or really liked from other people's discussions. So, with that being said, let's get started.
Mission begins in 60 seconds.
We'll start off things with the Spy. And for the Spy's primary, I've decided to call this weapon idea the Heartstopper. The Heartstopper is a one-shot taser that can temporarily stun enemies when hit. And so, for the statistics, on hit, reduce targets' movement speed to 40% of their normal movement speed for 4 seconds, and a plus 15% faster weapon switch speed. However, the negatives of this are a minus 90% reduced clip size, a minus 50% reduced max primary ammo on wear, and no random critical hits. So, in my mind, the Heartstopper serves two functions. Its first function is being able to isolate and pick off a target much easier. Say an engineer is running around his nest, or a medic is running around a group of heavies. Being able to use the Heartstopper to slow down their movement speed, it gives you just enough time to get yourself into position and go in for a nice easy backstab. And the second function of the Heartstopper is being able to slow down enemies that are chasing after you. Say a pyro is chasing after you, you can use the Heartstopper to slow them down for a few seconds, giving you enough time to go invisible and make a nice good getaway. For the Spy's melee, I've decided to call this one the Scene Fleeter. The Scene Fleeter is a knife that builds a boost of movement speed for successful backstabs, and it takes 3 backstabs to fill up the boost meter. So for the statistics, on a successful backstab, you build boost, and it gives a 25% movement speed at maximum boost. However, the negatives are cloaking will drain the boost and continues to drain while cloaked. Disguising or switching weapons will remove the boost entirely, and on a missed backstab, you reduce boost. So the Scene Fleeter is rewarding players that are able to get 3 backstabs, whether it can be in rapid succession or throughout the course of an extended period of time. However, the negatives are to keep sure that the Spy isn't overpowered with his newly gained speed boost. You basically have to remain uncloaked and have the weapon active in order for you to receive your speed boost. Otherwise, you receive the penalty of losing your boost entirely. However, having the boost active, you'll find that you'll be able to escape crowds much easier, and you'll be able to backstab faster classes like the Scout and the Medic much easier than with any other melee knife. For the Spy's watch, I've decided to call this one the Counterfeit. The Counterfeit is a Spy watch that immediately cloaks the Spy on a successful backstab and leaves a decoy for 3 seconds. So for the weapon statistics, the positives, it's a plus 20 movement speed while cloaked, and upon cloaking you leave a decoy of the target that disappears after 3 seconds. However, you cannot cloak manually, but you can uncloak manually. You're forced to cloak immediately on a backstab, and a minus 75% cloak duration. So the main purpose behind the counter feat is to give the spy another mind game tool for his arsenal. Much like how the Dead Ringer tricks your opponents into thinking that you're dead, the counter feat tricks your opponents into thinking that you're in the same room as them. To explain how the decoy works, once you give a backstab, you immediately cloak and a decoy of yourself is dropped and will start moving forward for a few seconds. While it's moving forward, it will continue to move forward until it bumps into another object that it can't pass through, such as an enemy teammate, an enemy building, or an environmental obstacle. And while it's moving forward, it will begin to cloak. So, to put it all together, you go for a backstab. Once you get that backstab, you turn invisible. Your decoy starts moving forward as it turns invisible. So there's a time period between when you actually go invisible and when your decoy actually goes invisible, giving your opponents enough time to view where that decoy is going and start running off in that direction of where the decoy is, while you can choose which other direction you want to go. Last thing to cover is the Spy Sapper, and for this idea we have the Major Malfunction. The Major Malfunction is a sapper that disables enemy engineer buildings and then explodes shortly afterwards. So for the weapon statistics, we have it disables enemy engineer buildings just like any other sapper, and it explodes after a few seconds, and the damage it does is based on the maximum health of the sapped enemy engineer's building. However, the negatives are, it does not damage the building while sapping, except for the explosion at the end, and a minus 10 slower sap duration. So, the Major Malfunction punishes engineers that create sentry nests, turning all of their sentries and buildings into ticking time bombs. The minus 10% is to give engineers a fighting chance to remove those sappers, because if they don't, that level 3 sentry is going to become a ticking time bomb. And once that sapper is done sapping that sentry, the bomb will explode and will deal 216 damage to anything else that's around it in a short proximity, meaning any other enemy teammates or enemy buildings that are close by to that sentry will receive damage. The other trade-off for the Major Malfunction is giving up the ability to do damage to the sentry during the sap duration and putting it all towards the end, plus the additional bonus of doing extra damage to other buildings around it. So if an engineer is able to destroy that sapper halfway through, that sentry or any other building will still have its full health. Unlike if you're using a regular sapper, it will have half of its health by that time. Now, there are a few reasons why I've chosen these weapon ideas for the spy. The first reason is to give the spy more escape tools from leaving a dangerous situation after getting a backstab. Now, there are a lot of times where I feel like I'm throwing my life down on the line just to be able to get off one kill, such as trying to go after a medic. A lot of the times he's going to be surrounded by a lot of teammates, such as a heavy or a pyro, and even with a combination like the Dead Ringer and the Spicicle, I know that I'm not going to escape that situation very easily. So, weapons like the Heartstopper are supposed to be able to help me get away from those dangerous situations. Being able to go in for a backstab and then stunning someone allows me to give enough time to either increase the distance of me being able to run away if I don't have enough cloak, or being able to immediately cloak and then find some place to hide while the team starts running off in a different direction trying to find me. The same goes for the Scene Fleeter. but in which you get the escape option kind of after you've earned it. Once you get enough kills with the Scene Fleeter, you'll be able to get away from crowds much easier with that additional movement speed. The second part of why I've chosen these weapon concepts is to give the spy more of a mind games factor to his arsenal. Now, there's kind of already a big line drawn across between aggressive playstyle and very sneaky playstyle, in which I'm referring to aggressive being the Dead Ringer and sneaky being to the Invisawatch and the Cloak and Dagger. Now, I know the Dead Ringer was initially released to be more of a way of spies getting across enemy lines by faking your own death and then decloaking behind them, but the Dead Ringer turns to be more of an aggressive playstyle in which you can run towards a group of people, not have to worry as much about taking damage, and then immediately decloak and go in for a backstab. Now, the counterfeit was designed to be more of a placeholder for in between those two, in which you can be aggressive, but you can also be very, very sneaky. It gives you enough time to be able to pick off one target and then retreat to a safe distance. Now, the third aspect of why I've chosen these weapons is to give the spy a much more destructive potential towards engineers. It gives him a much more stronger tool to punish engineers for playing super defensively, in which this would be the Major Malfunction. Now, the Major Malfunction will do a lot of damage to buildings based on their level, and will also damage anything else that's nearby their initial explosion, such as other enemy teammates or other enemy buildings. So being able to sap a level 3 sentry nest means that if that sentry explodes, or if that level 3 dispenser explodes, pretty much everything else around it is going to go bye-bye. Unfortunately, I wasn't planning to take this long for this video, so I'm going to have to make this a two-parter. In the next video, I'm going to cover the engineer and possible new weapons that could be implemented for the engineer's loadout. But until then, if you enjoyed what you heard so far, leave a like. If you want to leave some feedback, put it in the comments. If you want to check out more of the workshop items that have been shown in this video, all the links for them will be in the description. And as always, my name is TopCap Gaming, and I will see you all on a later time. Peace.